Alberta's new finance minister is a social worker and career politician named Joe Ceci. He did an interview with the Calgary Sun's Rick Bell that's just incredible and terrifying. This isn't just something Albertans should be worried about, it's something all Canadians should be worried about, since Alberta's oil patch has been carrying this country financially for almost 10 years. Folks, that golden goose, it's being killed. Ceci told Bell with a straight face that he's going to balance Alberta's budget in 2018, which is quite something, given that Ceci just passed an order in council to borrow $6 billion this year. An order in council means it was just an executive decision that he made in private, and then he told the province about it afterwards. No debate in the legislature, no budget, let alone a budget vote, just Joe Ceci deciding to borrow $6 billion. But pinky swear, he'll be in the black in 2.5 years. Just by the way, Kathleen Wynne's atrocious Liberals in Ontario, they're on track for an $11 billion deficit this year, but Ontario has 13 million citizens. Alberta has just 4 million, and they need to borrow $6 billion. That would be like Ontario borrowing, I don't know, $20 billion a year. Alberta is now governed literally twice as wastefully as Kathleen Wynne's Ontario. So here's Joe Ceci's plan to balance the budget. Here's what he told Rick Bell of the Sun, quote, "The way we get there is really ensuring we keep public services strong." Huh? It's ensuring we diversify and grow, and it's ensuring we are as efficient as possible going down the road, unquote. So you balance a government budget by spending a lot? That's what public services means. Lots of public sector union workers spending tax dollars. Is that how it works? I guess it does for a career government worker like Ceci himself and his union friends. So where's this money going to come from? Other than borrowing it, of course. Well, Ceci has thought that through. The oil sands, duh. It's like when Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, well, because that's where the money is. Or as Ceci put it to Rick Bell, quote, "It's the resource owned by Albertans, and it's got to be fairly compensated." Of course, the Alberta NDP has already announced that they're going to review the royalty rates paid by the oil sands, and that was just done a few years ago. But obviously the NDP needs more money if it's a choice between keeping Joe Ceci's public sector union friends well paid or wringing the money out of the private sector. It's clear who's more important. Ceci has already announced a hike in corporate taxes by 20% and a hike in taxes on individuals making more than $125,000 a year. In other words, anyone working in oil and gas. But $6 billion in borrowing this year too, just in case. Here's Ceci again. "I don't think anyone who manages money properly thinks debt is a bad word," unquote. Yeah, really, like Greece, I guess. So that's the finance minister, a stunned, naive socialist who can't believe he's in charge of one of Canada's most important economies now. And who's his chief of staff? An Olivia Chow campaigner named Nathan Rotman. Seriously, he was a door knocker for the socialist candidate who came in a distant third in Toronto's mayoral election last year. No experience in high finance. I don't know if he's ever even been to Alberta before, but he was hired ahead of any Albertan, ahead of any MBA or banker, to be the chief of staff to Joe Ceci, of course, because the guy doing the hiring was another Toronto NDP activist, Brian Topp, who was Rachel Notley's chief of staff as premier. Topp lives in Toronto and commutes to Edmonton each week. Of course he chose another Toronto boy. Rotman knows nothing about Alberta, and he cares even less. I went on his Twitter account today just out of curiosity. Here's a tweet Rotman made last week. Take a look. He's tweeting a picture of Edmonton's public transit, but doing so to try to weirdly shame the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, and Rob Ford. I mean, Rotman doesn't care about Alberta. He's just there for the high-paying patronage job, just to hold him until he can move back to Toronto. In fact, I'm surprised he hasn't already quit and gone back to Toronto now that his old boss, Olivia Chow, is running for Parliament in Toronto again. I mean, his mind, his heart, his purpose is still fighting and getting back at John Tory and Rob Ford. So you've got a social worker from Calgary and a party hack from Toronto running Alberta's finances. How's that working out? Well, let me run through some statistics for you. Let's start with unemployment. Over the past year, Alberta's unemployment rate has jumped a full percent, from 4.9 to 5.9%. 30,000 more people are out of work, but an even larger number have just stopped looking. In Calgary, unemployment is up from 5.3 to 6.1%. In Edmonton, it's up from 5.6 to 6.2%. But those are the big cities. In the smaller centers, it is brutal. Take Red Deer. Unemployment has nearly tripled from 2.6% to 7%. In Fort McMurray, it's doubled from 4.1 to 8.2%. That's much higher than the national average. That's crazy. Fort McMurray is the engine that's been pulling our whole country financially. Now its food bank is empty. But things are about to go from bad to worse. There are only 73 drilling rigs at work in the entire province, just 14% of them. The other 86% are idle. That's down 51% from last year. It's the lowest level of drilling rigs working since 2009. Housing prices are obviously falling too. People don't feel confident to buy homes. Prices are down 5.6% in Calgary in 6 months. Total building permits to build new homes, new construction of any sort, in Alberta, it's down 7.9% this year. So it's not just energy workers who are in trouble, now it's construction workers. Housing starts fell the most in the whole country. And of course, do you think Albertans are buying new cars and trucks? New vehicle sales are down 13.7%. The value of energy exports are down 36.9%, no surprise there. But Rachel Notley's NDP opposes the Keystone XL pipeline. That would have brought more revenues to the province, but no, she's against the pipes. Manufacturing is down 11.8% too. It's across the province. Alberta's on the edge of a major recession. Now, I acknowledge the obvious. The problems in the oil patch began before the NDP were elected. The world price of oil fell from $100 a barrel to $50. You can't blame the NDP for that. But you can blame them for piling on, for jacking up corporate taxes and personal income taxes and doubling the carbon tax and bringing in a royalty review at precisely the worst possible moment. It would be like if during the 2008 Great Recession, if the government of Ontario, when the auto sector was hurting, announced that it was going to bring in a special automobile tax and major factory tax and tax on union workers making cars right at that moment. Oh, and if that Ontario government would have been run by staffers from Calgary. It's just bizarre. This is because the NDP are ideologues. They hate industry in general, and they hate oil and gas in particular in their bones. All of their big schemes of finally gutting the goose that lays the golden eggs. I mean, they were dangerous enough, those schemes, when oil was at $100 a barrel, but now they're literally going to tip the province over from merely being precarious to being in a full-blown recession. What, do you think Olivia Chow's childish campaign door knocker cares? Or even knows what to do? He's still thinking about getting back to Toronto. He's still literally jabbing at John Tory and Rob Ford. That's more important to him than saving Alberta. Saving Alberta? He's a lifelong Ontario socialist. He loves the idea of bringing Alberta down a peg. Joe Ceci is simply a clueless public sector worker himself, but at least he's an Albertan. Nathan Rotman is the Toronto mercenary who's being brought in to do the damage. In his interview with Rick Bell, Bell asked Ceci if maybe, just maybe, Alberta's bloated government should make some cuts to spending rather than squeezing an already imploding oil industry. Ceci told him, quote, "That's not what voters wanted." Really? Did they want a doubling of the carbon tax or higher personal income taxes for people making $125,000 or more? Those weren't even in the NDP platform. Did the people of Alberta really give the NDP a green light to kill the oil sands? No. Here's the Abacus poll of 1,000 Albertans the week after the election there. It shows 93% of Albertans said the vote for the NDP was simply a vote for change to throw out the old corrupt PCs. Only 7% of Albertans said it was an endorsement of NDP policy. Even NDP voters said that. But don't tell that to Joe Ceci or Nathan Rotman or his hero, Olivia Chow. For their whole lives, they've dreamed about what they'd do if they ever had the keys to the castle and to its bank account. Well, now we know. Look, I love Alberta. I love the oil patch. But if I had any property there, or if I owned any Canadian oil stocks, yeah, I'd be selling them right now. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.